right now.
Yeah, before we look at the hands, I just want to reemphasize some ideas. And if you were here last week, a lot of this would be kind of familiar. But as a declarer, when I look at a hand, the first thing I do is I count winners and losers. It just gives me a general idea of what tricks am I immediately going to lose, what tricks do I not have to worry about. That's one of the most basic steps, because without that, you don't know what you're trying to get. And when you figure out what you're trying to get, it's just a question of what suits do you attack. So I look at each suit individually and say, okay, well, what's the best shot in this suit? I do that for each of them. Because some of them, you have like 3 small opposite 3 small, and it's just, you can't do anything with. And then some of them you can take a finesse in, some of them you can play for something to drop. And after doing that, I think about, well, what sequence do I need to play on these suits? Because sometimes you need to develop some winners before others. That's where bridge gets tricky, is the timing of everything. Because if you look at a suit in isolation, it's normally just about, well, who's bid what are the percentages in this? If you're good at math, it's really easy. If you're not good at math, it maybe takes you a few seconds, but you know that the queen's over here, you can't do anything. So, once you have this kind of idea, you need to make considerations about, like, what can you assume about your opponent's hands, what actions did they do or not do that indicate what shape they have. So what that basically means is that when you're thinking about combining all of your suits and playing them in the right order, is there any particular reason that you should do one way over another because somebody has something that they've either shown in the bidding or that they've implied based on the way they played their cards? So does that idea kind of make sense? Mm-hmm. And it's, the thought process is pretty, 1, 2, 3, 4, but, what separates good players from average players is their experience doing this and their awareness of what, tricks are available to them. And that's what today we're going to talk about. So on this first hand, East opens a weird 2-diamond bid, okay? And it's important for reasons you'll see in a moment.
Jack, that's not the hand I'm holding.
No.
No?
These are not our hands. The hearts are different.
Maybe is it
Wait a minute, East.
Oh, no. Wrong hand. Sorry. You want this hand. There we go. Oh, wait a minute. This is...
Now, trust me, East does not have that hand.
Oh, hold on a second.
What am I now?
It'll be this
I want
hand.
that hand.
What am I? East?
It'll be this
No,
hand.
West.
Does this hand look familiar?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
That's it.
No,
No. Yeah, well,
no, it doesn't, not for East.
yeah. It does
No,
for,
it does
for West. So what's with
Does
you?
it for-
South has got it.
Are you looking at the right hand? Are you
I
looking at
picked
East?
it up here, yes.
I've got North's hand, that's North's
Do you
hand.
have
I've
yellow
got-
cards? Yeah, we got yellow cards.
West
No,
hand.
I've got nothing in my hand. I have the Queen of Hearts, period.
You're sitting
You don't have the
East?
Jack down?
Yes.
You have the Jack of Diamonds?
No, yes. Jack
Okay,
9,
that's-
7, 4.
Okay, you're
That's
good.
your hand. That's your hand.
You want to look on the right-hand side.
Oh, huh?
You just wanted the other one.
You're
That's
looking
your
at the
hand.
wrong hand.
Yeah.
Look
Oh,
at
I'm
East.
looking over there.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
thinking that's north.
Yeah.
I
That's East.
apologize.
Okay. No, you're good. You're good.
No, I'm not.
But
Let's see. So, how does the bidding go on this? Okay, done. Wait, what? Why on earth did I? Okay.
Guess we don't have to worry about showing our hands to each other.
No, I
No,
can
no.
see them.
It's
Hide your hand.
It's gonna be playing.
Let's say the auction goes something like this, okay? The only real important consideration in this hand is that West is overcalled spades, okay? So,
Gonna open. So I'm gonna open a heart.
yeah, so,
I'm the dealer.
Yeah, don't pay attention to that.
Oh,
so who is sitting West?
Ruth is sitting with us.
I am.
Okay, what are you leading as West?
If I'm leading,
You're
I'm,
The contract is for her.
I'm leading
playing
ace
four
of
hearts.
spades.
Alright, so West leads the ace of spades, I agree. And Al Dummy comes down.
Oh, I see it.
And what's the contract?
You're in 4 hearts. South is playing 4 hearts.
Okay, you're south?
I am south.
See, that's what screwed me up.
Okay. Got it. If I'm lead south, it has to be.
Yes.
Alright, so,
Leading the ace of spades.
mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So,
Which is West.
Yeah.
This is West.
Over here, it's already
Okay, I
out, it's
don't-
already out, it's already out, is the reason.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
it's
took
in the
it out.
middle.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, so who's sitting south?
I'm sitting south.
All right, south. So tell me what your thoughts are on this hand.
I've got 3 spade losers off the top.
No, you don't.
There's only 2 of them.
Two.
Oh, I can't see that, see up there.
Sorry.
Okay.
Here.
I thought there was another one up there. Got 2 spade losers off the top,
Possible heart.
I'm gonna look at it.
maybe a club loser.
I'm not gonna look at it.
I-
Maybe a heart.
Maybe a heart loser, but I do have a possible finesse for the heart.
So you have 1, 4,
1, 2, 3.
5 possible losers, right?
I do have 5 possible losers. It's possible.
Yeah,
So I've
that's,
got to hope that I can finesse the queen of hearts.
okay, I agree. So
Either
that
that or it drops. You have nine hearts.
so that's a good first step 1 and 2, right? So step 1 was counting winners and losers. South can see if you look at the south hand, there's 5 losers, right? You may or may not be able to ruff a spade. We'll come back to that in a moment. You may or not be able to ruff the heart, which leads us to step 2, which is looking at each suit in isolation. So south looks at the heart suit, and this is one of those where you can either drop it or finesse it. We'll come back to that in a second. The spades, you might be able to ruff a spade and a dummy. The trouble, though, is that West has overcalled spades. Because East hasn't raised, it's very likely that East has a doubleton spade.
Correct.
It doesn't always work like that, but it does enough that, you should think about it at least. So, given that North's trumps are so small, it's likely that East will be able to overruff the spade. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Does everybody understand how we arrived at that conclusion?
Yes.
Okay, so next suit. Diamonds, we don't really care about, right? If we're looking at the south hand, the ace of diamonds covers a 2.
Yeah.
That 10 of diamonds might be something if somebody has like queen jack third and it gets roughed out, but it's kind of a long shot. So next suit. And clubs, with proper play, that's never going to set up a third trick.
Right.
Right, because in isolation, there's just nothing you can do. So with that said,
Wait a minute. Why?
because if the opponents aren't going to lead this suit for you, if they can at all avoid
I'm
it,
looking at, I'm screwing up. there.
you're good.
Sorry, never mind.
You're good.
Never mind.
So clearly, you're going to lose 2 spades off the top, right?
Right.
So, and West has no better defense than the continued spades. So you can kind of play to the first 2 tricks and not think too hard, right? And now West is going to lead a 3rd spade, and now you kind of have to think. So you've already lost 2 tricks, so we kind of go back and do the same process again. So now we have a possible spade loser here, a possible club loser, and a possible heart loser.
Why would you lead another spade?
You'll,
Because she's out.
yeah.
Well, your partner, the
Partner's
partner's
out.
partner's out.
Partner.
right?
Your partner is out.
There's
Right,
a
remember
small
that
trumps
partner's out.
that go
Your
with it.
partner's out.
Right.
I'm figuring that I can't over trump and they are, so I'm gonna pitch a club.
Very good. Very good. So this idea is called a loser on loser, and
Yeah.
Except if she leaves her top spade,
She is leading her top.
okay.
this
and
will
she
work
slots
regardless
the
of which.
club,
Yeah.
Well, not on the board, not on the board, in my
Okay.
hand.
Well, you're going to have to do it on the
Oh, I
board
have to-
though.
I have to do it on the board.
So just to show you, so
I was thinking of stepping.
a bad player would just immediately ruff with like maybe the 6 of hearts. We'll give them some credit. They're not that bad. And now East will over ruff with the 7 and return literally anything, and South always has to lose a club, right? Even if East returns a club, there's just no hope now. Does everybody see this?
Yeah.
Because you got 1 opposite 1, there's no way to pitch it.
Yeah.
Even if you get the heart suit right, not much to be done. So, since you can foresee that, per the inferences we made a few seconds ago, so there's no point in roughing. So, if you did anything, you shouldn't play a heart. The reason you pitch a club is because now you're able to get rid of a loser on a loser. And your thinking is that you can ruff a club later and dummy after you, say, draw trumps or something. Does that make sense?
Yep,
So,
unless you figure the heart's wrong.
right. Now, let's say East pitches anything here, doesn't trump. West can't hurt you. If West leads a diamond, you can win and play on trumps. If West does a...
Wouldn't the queen of clubs be a better bet?
I think so too. If West leads a club, you know, you can win a club, play on trumps. And if West leads a trump, it makes your life easy. If West continues another spade, now you don't really care if you rough or not, right? You could rough.
Slopping all up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't even need it. That's the thing.
My
East would
partner
do
would do
this, and it just makes your drawing trump process a lot easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sure.
Um,
I don't want to lose.
so let's say this happens and West leads a club. The next question is then, how do you get the trumps right? Because you're missing 4 to the queen. Normally you would play for the drop, right? But one thing I will tell you right now is that only works absent any other information. That's the only time that probability is true. You need to think about, is there a way to play this safely so I can guarantee making all my tricks? And if you can't do that, how do your odds change based on the bidding? So again, West has overcalled spades, and he has 6 of them. East had 2 of them. We don't really know a whole bunch about the other side
West
suits.
has shown 11 points.
Not necessarily 11. I mean, West will. I mean, it's.
Well, he's led that.
Shown 11 so
But
far.
he's shown ace king.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I agree. West has already shown 11. I agree.
So
9
if-
points,
if-
he showed 9 points. Oh, and then the queen of clubs.
Yeah, then the queen of clubs. So you might think point-wise, well, if West is overcalled, he has the queen of hearts. And in this situation, it's not really, since West already has enough to make the overcall, there's no real rule saying that, well, West is more likely to have the queen of hearts now. It's just kind of equal. So this is when you can apply this principle that's called vacant places. And basically, you're just counting how many cards everybody's played, and you're thinking about what's left for them to have. So in this example, West has 6 and probably has at least 2 or 3 clubs, on average. But you know about the spades for sure. And since the clubs will be fairly equal, we could just approximate for a moment that, West has 6 known cards and East has 2. So if anybody has the queen of hearts, it's more likely to be East because he has more unknown cards left. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can actually do a little bit better. So you can win in hand, cash a top heart, just in case West to say the stiff queen, because that does happen. And now you can lead anything to dummy. And upon taking the finesse here, again, have your odds changed? Not particularly, so you finesse and it works today. Sometimes it doesn't, but that's okay. That's how math works. The reason that you can get it right 70% of the time is because 30% of the time you get it wrong. Right? It's just how it works.
I see you get into 30% category.
So, does anybody have any questions on this?
Yep.
Okay. It looks pretty simple here, but you'd be surprised how many people miss this loser on loser play when it comes up at the table. So, and you can find it just by going through our step process. So, bear with me here because the order I have these in is different from the ones that you have on those.
I wish you had said that.
Let's see.
We didn't need to take our own.
No, we didn't.
No. Just something to hold, something to do. Shucks.
Okay, so this hand you will not have in your set.
Good.
And we talked briefly about finesses last week, and so I just wanted to show this because this is kind of a neat suit combination.
Which way is north?
North is
The normal.
top.
Where,
Up
okay,
at the top is
where
got
it was
the
the
blue
last
end,
time.
see the blue
Yeah, so
end.
south here is overcalled hearts in the bottom and is declaring 4 hearts.
Why did that person open 2 diamonds?
So east 2 diamond opening is conventional. I'll explain after I figure out what West
Wait a
leads here. I think West leads a
2
club.
diamonds before.
So, okay, 10 of diamonds is what I thought. So,
Oh, because
Maybe it's Mexican $2.
so east 2 diamond bid shows some 4-4-4-1 shaped hand with like 10 to 15 points. Okay, so
Well,
some.
why would you, oh, no. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. So that's just East-West agreement, and by the way, you should never use this convention. This hand might illustrate why. So let's look at the Claire's tricks again. So, what are our thoughts?
Four hearts, no heart losers,
One spade, one club.
at least one spade loser, at least.
One spade
And diamonds.
and one club.
No diamonds.
And
club.
maybe one club.
Clearly, you're making 4 hearts, right?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe.
So now we can worry about over tricks. You know, if you a club game, you'd be thinking about this already. If you're playing in teams, you know, you might think about it a little bit less, but since your contract is virtually cold here, you could think about it. An Emperor 2 is nice to have. So, we all realize that we have a spade loser and a club loser. So let's do our next step. So let's look at the spade suit, because the other 2 suits you're not getting any tricks from ever, right? Can we all see that? So, can you develop a trick in spades at all?
Probably not.
No.
A very
You're missing
difficult.
queen, jack,
Two roughs.
10. Well, it depends on what they slot.
We'll come back to that in a moment. Can you
Yeah.
make a trick on the club suit?
Maybe.
Maybe. The finesse is on side, right?
Yeah.
So, since we've looked at our suits in isolation, let's now consider what inferences we have about the opponent's hands. This opening here is a big revealer. Can anybody tell me why?
Well, if you're playing that convention, the revealer is the 4-4-4-1 probably.
Yeah, I agree. And where do you think East Singleton is, most
It's gotta
likely?
be in hearts.
Yeah, you're looking at 10 of them. If East, you know,
Yeah.
if East has 3 hearts, call the director, you know? And just see what East thought when he was open and maybe put a diamond or something. So, we figure East has a hand that's 4-1-4-4 exactly with, you know, 10 to 15 points. Now, how many points are outstanding?
One.
So, yeah, so there, outside of the north-south hands, which is what you could see if you were playing this, you would just count whatever honors you're missing, and you have 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12 points missing. So, West has at most a queen on a bad day, right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, we can basically place East with everything he has here outside of having maybe one queen versus another. So, let's say that you win the diamond and draw some trumps. Because it can't really hurt to do that at this point. Now, clearly the club finesse is offside, right? Because if West can only have like a queen, West can't have a king. So the king's got to be over with East.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yep.
So, since I know the club finesse is off, is there any way that I can finagle the spade suit to get a pitch and dummy? Because then I can rough a club, right? Because dummy's only got 2 clubs.
Right. So what if you finesse the 9 of spades through East and let it ride the jack?
He's gonna cover with something.
Well, let him, well, he covers.
Let's say, okay, I like
Okay,
this.
if he covers with the 10,
All right.
then the jack is gonna fall next
Then you can
time.
play the king.
Yeah, the jack falls.
And then you give
yeah.
up. And then you give up the one trick.
Right. Very good. So,
Exactly.
and this position, which I'll give a name in a moment, when you look at the 2 hands, again, because of East's opening, we know East has 4 spades. So, if the queen, jack, 10 of spades are together, you can't do anything. So, disregard that possibility. What if West has one of those spades, right? Because the queen, jack, and 10 here are equal, all kind of carrying the same weight. So, if West has something like this where he has honor small, you can do what's called an intra finesse. And basically the idea is that you want to lead through West, push out one of East's honors, and then crash West's jack and finesse back later.
Yep.
Okay.
Right? So, let's say he returns a diamond, roughed, we lead a spade dummy, West obliges by playing the jack. And notice that the finesse here is marked on the bidding, because West can't have 3 spades. So, at this point, if you were feeling cheeky, you could claim, and most of the time you'd be right, unless your opponents don't know how to bid their hands. But,
And you got it.
and then from here, it plays itself.
Yeah.
You can always rough a club. So, now,
Cross drop the hand up.
right. So notice if West plays the jack, when you lead a low spade, it just makes your life a lot easier. You just make a finesse through East twice.
Right.
You know, and if East ducks, you duck, and you lose no spades. If East covers, you're going to win, get the dummy with a heart.
What did you call that finesse from
It-
low from here?
It's called an intra finesse. This is the textbook position. You're missing the queen jack 10. And the thinking is that since there's no way for you to like end play anybody or play this suit yourself unless it's this position. The idea is that you can make an extra trick by creating a finessable position against East. That's kind of the idea. There's a really good Brazilian player who made this popular, Gabriel Jagas, I think his name is. It's one of the few modern discoveries, if you will, in card play. But it's just kind of an interesting little position. Doesn't come up a whole lot, but you don't have to know it to think through, okay, well, you know, I have a club loser I can't get rid of, but if East is 4 spades to 2 honors, can I do anything? And you have to go through the possible plays, right? So, any questions about that? Okay. So,
It was interesting, I like that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking, what if you let the 9 from the north hand and
You're
East
wasting a
covers
top
the
card.
10, and then
You've got the 8 in your hand, Bruce.
I
You
know.
don't need to leave the 9.
Well, you've got to.
if you lead the 9,
gotta get
if
a-
you lead the 9 from north, East,
East
best
has got
defense is to
cover
duck.
the 10 or the queen.
But see, East will duck, and then West Jack wins, and you're just kind of toast.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Now, if you could catch East in that, it works too. But you know, why guess? Just make sure of it and lead low to the 9, and you know that just based off the bidding, which is one of the reasons that opening is. It's a double-edged sword. Whenever you show your exact shape, it helps partner make interesting preemptive raises, but that's about where the advantage ends. So this next hand is going to be your second board.
Are we ready for that?
Board number 2?
Yes.
21.
Oh,
Yeah,
21.
doesn't matter.
All right.
Doesn't make any difference who's holding what.
If you want to declare it, sit south. I'd suggest you rotate them around so everybody gets a little taste.
Really?
You're
It's
south.
diamond, heart, 2 diamonds.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
board 21. Why does it say 14 up there?
Don't pay attention to that.
Oh, don't disregard those aren't going to correlate with the boards you see there. I just don't have I kind of wish they would make blank boards for teaching purposes, and I could just write a little marker, board 5 or whatever. But
Okay, so who's the dealer?
Let's see.
South, no, but he said south would be the dealer.
yeah, South's going to be declaring all these hands as the auction
Okay,
is
but I'm
gone.
still the dealer.
No, she's the dealer.
As the auction's gone, though,
Okay.
as the auction is gone, East is open diamond, and North South found their way to 4 hearts after that. That's
Okay, do you want South to open the hand?
no. I have the auction up here. East is open to diamond,
Yep, I did.
and then North South of the auction from there getting the 4 hearts. And that's the only relevant information you need because we're just going to be talking about inferences and stuff. So let's see. What did I
Okay, my hand
have?
is dummy.
What did I have West lead here? 6 of diamonds. Okay. So West leads the 6 of diamonds.
There it
This
is.
is the east hand.
There it is. Oh, could it be anymore?
So you're leading the 6 of diamonds. Go ahead and put that down because that's your shortness and it's partner suit. It's a pretty natural lead. So I want the declarer again to go through the same process and just tell me what are you thinking as far as your tricks go.
Oh,
Okay.
7 losers. I count.
Wait a minute, no, maybe. Oh, you have to lose the 8. Oh, you have to lose This one,
Well, I'm just looking at my hand, I'm not looking at both.
okay, but it's easy.
But if you look, but if you
Oh.
look at the dummy,
Okay, so I
Look at both.
Oh, okay, let me look at both. Okay. one loser there. One, two, three losers, possible, but probably
Or
not.
four,
Probably three losers,
or four,
two losers, actually.
the king of clubs.
No, well, just,
No, you have a singleton
you
club.
just look at the two hands together.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay, so you have one club loser.
I think you got potentially 2 heart losers.
And possibly two, let's see. And possibly two, you know, the heart, probably the heart, suit would be, it's kind of holy.
Yeah, I think so too. So,
Two, yeah, I would think so.
Two heart losers,
Two,
no
three.
spade losers. One diamond
Four
losers.
losers, possible losers,
And, well, you're not gonna lose a club.
no? Or you could, you
You
probably.
lose a diamond, you
You
probably
lose
lose
one
a
diamond,
diamond.
I mean, just because of
Yeah.
the bidding.
But you're not gonna lose a club because you're.
That's right, no clubs losers, no spade losers, so the hearts are really the one that.
Crappy.
Correct.
yeah, so it looks like you have 3 losers, right?
Yeah.
You could have 4 though.
Uh-huh.
You could.
With the heart.
Yeah, so this distribution, which isn't here, but you still have to kind of cater to this. If West has 4 hearts to the Jack 10, and you do something like this, like let's say lead a low heart to the King, okay? So East wins.
No, I'm about to say.
East would win, and then West would be left with the Jack 10-9 of hearts, and you're going to lose 2 tricks.
Right.
Right, so that's a little embarrassing. Only because you have a way to stop this, right? And so being able to see that, well, okay, if I play the King and East wins the stiff ace, that's a problem, is something that you would think about if you ask the question, well, can I lose anything, and actually consider all the possibilities. Because a lot of people play very fast, and so they just don't feel like they have the time to think about this, because it doesn't come up very often, right? I mean, what are the percentages of the stiff ace of hearts over there? But that notwithstanding, good players think about this kind
I
of
know how
thing.
you can do it.
So after winning the first trick, which there's no reason to duck, what do you think the declarer should do to
Small hearts
prevent
and
against
a
this?
6.
No, because now you lose in this situation,
Yeah, but then her ace.
and now you lose the
captures
ace of
one or the
hearts,
other on it.
but now-
Captures the 10.
but now it's going to go like this.
Get a
Yeah,
diamond.
yeah.
Rough.
So you would lose in the normal positions if you did that. If you knew that the ace of hearts was stiff, that would work.
Right.
But here you don't. So you want to play that, doesn't lose anything in the normal layouts, but gives you an edge in this particular layout, right? Any ideas?
Okay, let's see.
You could, but notice that if you lead a diamond, you're just
Same thing's gonna happen.
expediting down one. We can lead a diamond.
Let's rough the clubs out, clubs and spades.
Okay, if you rough out clubs and spades, what will happen is you'll end up shortening your length and south, and they'll just get those trump tricks again anyway. Right? Because East eventually has to exit something, and, West is going to get the same trump tricks with Jack 10-4. The other thing is that it puts you at risk for an over rough if West decided to have, say, 3 spades. So, not a terrible idea, but there's a better line.
Okay, tell us.
So the key here is to think about the bidding, which was, step 3 or 4 or so. So you have 4, 7, 10, 11, 15 points outstanding, right? West probably has at most 4 of those, right? Assuming East will open with an 11 count. So if anybody has the ace of hearts, it's most likely to be East. Most likely.
I don't like that line.
So what I would go ahead and do is lead something to dummy, and then lead a low heart. This forces East to do one of 2 bad things. Play his ace of hearts on air, and then I can draw trumps pretty easily now. Or play low, after which, if I play the queen, and it's like this, I'm okay. Because now I'm only losing a diamond. Am I doing this right?
Yeah, he has to play the 10
Yeah.
and the king and the ace.
Now you only ever lose 3
One.
tricks, not 4.
Now you have one.
You're only gonna lose one hard trick.
And notice that this is like the normal layout. Like if East had the ace of hearts alone, he would have to have played the ace on this last trick. And then you'd be fine too, because after this, West would ruff with something and then let you back in, and you could, you know, get over, come back with a club ruff and draw the last trump.
So East really don't really have a choice.
Right, exactly. You're kind of putting Ace in the fork of having 2 terrible things to do and having to accept one of them. So
Okay.
this is a hand from the Bridge Master deals. And I was looking through it because I couldn't think of any, like, well, what can you do? And this hand was interesting because I got it wrong about 3 times, and I looked at it and said, oh, okay, that's what it is.
That makes us feel a little bit.
Yes.
So does that make sense though?
Yeah, it does.
And again, it's about taking the time to think about something that doesn't happen too often, and then you're able to play like if it does happen, and you'll get it right no matter what. So, that said, I have to now figure out which board is okay. So, bear with me here.
Or keep it.
So this next deal is not going to be in that set either.
Was East vulnerable that time?
I believe so, but I don't particularly remember.
Well, he had
There's something I
13
learned when I
points.
was 3.
2, 3. So this is the first one,
Doesn't hurt anybody.
the second one, the third one. No, it's not it. It'll be this one then.
Doesn't matter.
There we go.
He's trying to find it.
Okay.
What,
So, don't ask me how. You ended up in 7-no trump.
who? Who does? Let me guess.
Yeah. So, whoever wants to take a crack at this,
Open 7-no drum. Oh, no, open 7-no drum?
I'm just putting it there so South can declare. You could have whatever auction you want the 7-no trump, but I felt like this was the most interesting because North accidentally laid face down his hand, and South was like, okay, well, let's just do this. So,
Okay, no club losers. You've got how many diamonds? 1, 2, 5 diamonds in the hand. Okay, 5 diamonds, 3
One
clubs,
club, one spade.
3 clubs.
Count
two
12,
spades.
where's 13?
No, well, no, I haven't gotten
But
there.
you can get rid of one spade
Yeah,
with a
that's-
heart, and or you can trump a.
You can't
Oh,
trump,
just
no trump.
No
No
trump. Okay, so the
Okay,
heart,
you can
the
slap,
hearts are the problem.
you can slap a spade on a heart. And, yeah, you can slap a spade on a heart from your hand. You can slap the
Mhm.
5 of spades.
You can slump one and that's about it.
And
You
then,
can you slap, slump a.
and then
I gotta
on,
figure
or
out.
do it the other.
On the-
so look, you guys are, so just go back to your process. So we counted our winners, right? We have 12 winners.
Yeah.
Look at your suits in isolation. Can you do anything? Is that 4th heart going to be good?
Maybe,
Possibly.
depends on the slot.
If the Jack 10-9 are by themselves, yes, but otherwise, no, right? So, can you do anything in spades?
Pardon me?
Can you do anything in spades?
No,
No. Okay, I agree. So,
it's the diamond.
this hand is tricky because you don't really have a lot of hope in either suit, right? I mean, you know, if you were feeling intermediate, you might be like, all right, well, I'm just going to try, you know, to cast 3 hearts, and then, you know, see what happens, and if I'm not mistaken, down you go,
Right.
right? Because now there is no
You have
hope.
definite loser
Two of them.
Gotta play your diamonds
first.
Gotta
See
play
what,
the
see what they say.
So-
And then the 2 and the 3 diamonds are good.
The best way to phrase this perhaps is that be your backup option, right? Because even though it's not likely to happen, it does. But is there a way you can improve your chances, right?
Yep.
Queen of hearts, you can slap 1 spade on the heart. You can.
Don't you play all the diamonds first?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so
what we'll do.
Yeah, are you gonna get rid of is the question.
So, if you're ever in a situation where you're stuck, always ask yourself, how can the opponents help me make this contract? It will lead you to a lot of interesting ideas. So,
Well, you can't give them a trick. You can't have it.
right. So, but what could they do that could help me here?
They're sloughing, they're sloughing.
Okay, I agree. So, let's say somebody pinches a bunch of hearts. That's good for me because now I can give my heart will be good just by length. So, and the same thing, although it's a lot less likely, could also happen in spades, right?
Yeah.
Less likely.
Yeah.
And notice that if I'm just kind of hoping for something good to happen,
What was the opening lead?
The six of
opening lead was
spades.
spade, okay.
so what you might do is cash all the suits outside of hearts and spades because you want them to pitch those.
Yeah,
The
go for
diamonds
pitch cards.
first,
You gotta
and
hope- you
then,
gotta
and then
hope
the
for the
clubs.
Yeah, so
Pitch your losers on the little diamonds.
Well, you're doing that.
well, you only ever get one pitch, right? It was the same problem you had with
You're
the.
still gonna lose one
Oh.
spade.
But I mean, you would just do this because you have nothing better to do. I don't want him pitching a heart just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now, what are they gonna pitch?
Right. So you notice what's happened in this position?
Yeah.
This is called a squeeze.
Yes.
And basically, it's just forcing somebody to discard something stupid, right? So, what you'd be paying attention for sitting south is all the top spades, and if the top don't go, then you have to play on hearts, right? And you would know that just because, you know, you'd be like, huh, why are you pitching all those spades? And be like, oh, that's interesting. But East is just stuck. He's stuck as early as the first trick, right? So, that's all a squeeze is. It's not anything super elaborate. It just, you know, some of them aren't at least. Some of them require some planning, but
Or end playing, one of the two.
yeah,
There's no end
Bring
playing
in
that.
that. You can't end play in that.
you can, but you'll get a bad board. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just how it works.
Don't they have to leave for an influx?
That's what I just said.
Yeah, but so does this idea make sense? This is a simple squeeze because as long as one person holds both the king, queen, jack of spades and the heart length, they're going to be in this position. Notice that you have two, we call them threats, and one of them is your spade in the south hand, and one of them is your heart in the north hand. You almost always want to have one threat in each hand just so that it works against both people, but where squeezes get complicated or whenever, you know, there are different kinds of, you can have up to 3 threats, you can have them in different hands, sometimes they work against one opponent versus another. I'm not interested in getting into the technical details of squeezes. I just want you to get, like, this is how you get to them without knowing what they are. Because in a situation like this, you just had nothing else to go on, but you figure that it can't hurt to run a bunch of other tricks prior to doing that. So
And
does
you
that
still
make
have the
sense?
possibility of either one good heart or one good spade.
Exactly, exactly. So, are any questions on this?
Boy, listen to that.
Okay, so we're going to do,
Thank you.
go ahead and pull out the next hand. It'll be the third board. I'm going to set it up on this.
Even though we can see
I mean,
I don't know.
you don't have to.
Just do it.
Just do it. Okay.
Okay, so my hand, what am I? I'm west.
So this will be this one.
So west will open their hand too hard.
1,
This
2,
is
3, 4,
not
5,
my
6,
hand.
7.
My hand is easy.
No, don't worry. I'm setting it up on the screen here. It's just going to take a second.
Hang in
How are you?
there. There we
Nice.
go.
Is it this one here?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So
I'm on the
my
wrong
hand is
board. It'd be
gonna
this
open-
one.
Who's the dealer?
There we go. Okay, so
Dealer is
It's
east,
south.
south, whatever you want.
so again, you have a rather abrupt auction. You weren't there to bid it yourself. I just want South to play 5 clubs, okay?
South.
Carol, that's you. It's your game.
So let's see what happens. Yeah, so West leads the ace of hearts, and Declare needs to somehow plan the play.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you guys to all go through the same process, okay? Just look at your tricks, you know, count winners and losers.
Okay,
Feeling it for you.
I think I doubled.
okay.
So
All right,
the contract
I did
is,
not lose the third spade.
what is our contract?
You're in five
Five
clubs.
clubs.
5 clubs.
Here, let me
Five
scoot this
clubs,
over.
okay. Two losers. I
Two
see-
heart losers.
I see two losers.
A
Spade.
spade loser.
Yep.
Two hearts.
So you've got to.
Maybe.
One of spades.
One of those.
Right.
So you gotta make your jack of spades good.
Or you, no, you gotta set up another diamond.
Okay,
No, that won't work.
that won't work.
No, I don't know how you do it.
You're gonna lose 2 hearts. You gotta lose 2 hearts. That's from the get-go. Lose 2 hearts. Or 10. Well,
No.
So, to make this simple, you're always losing 2 hearts, right?
yeah.
Yes.
That much is pretty obvious.
So what do you do?
Diamonds, you could, you know, hope for somebody to have Queen Jack third. Spades, you could try some very obscure finesse. It's just, you know, isn't going to happen that often. So we're in the situation where you're like, what you think about?
Wait a minute, you've got 3 spades.
Right. How can I get some help? Exactly. So what would you like East West to do?
Drop their cards.
Yes.
Lead a diamond.
Well, either lead a diamond or lead
Lead a
a
spade.
spade.
But sometimes it works. I mean, here it's not. If you can get East on lead, but you're not going to, it might help.
Oh, wait,
But
West is on
Yeah, we
lead.
want West on the.
West is on lead.
so the first 3 tricks, just to help you here, it's going to go like this, which you probably already guessed, right? Because West is like going to
Yeah.
cash his winners and try to give his partner a trump elopement. So you would rough high. Can we agree to avoid the
Yeah,
over
yeah,
rough that's
yeah.
pending? Let's say East pitches a spade.
Which is good. A start.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do next?
Full trump.
Okay, I agree. And just to see if Gibb agrees, he does. So again, another observation. So we know that East had a doubleton heart. He followed twice. We also know that East had 3 clubs. He followed 3 times. So East probably started with 4-4 or 5-3 distribution the other 2 suits, right? If you had an auction, sometimes you can infer things like if East didn't say bid a spade or, you know, make a negative double, you can get a better approximation. But it suffices to say for this deal that East originally started with 4-4. Okay.
We have lost no tricks yet, right?
Yeah, well, you've lost 2. You can't lose any more though.
Lost 2,
You can't-
okay.
You can't lose
The ace,
any more.
yeah, ace king.
So what should you do in this position?
Lead the 10 of diamonds.
You're in south.
You're in the
Oh,
south.
okay.
Lead the king.
Well, if you leave the king of diamonds, you get this. That doesn't really help your position,
All
right?
right, you lead a small diamond. That doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I mean, I'll just show you this. So when it comes down to this,
Still got the spade left.
if you pitch a spade, East will pitch a spade, and you're done. If you pitch a diamond, East will pitch a diamond, you're done. So clearly that can't work. Can we agree on that?
Yep.
Now, do you see how you might be able to foresee this as early as here? Because when South is in this position, he goes, okay, well, if I try to play on diamonds and nobody has Queen Jack third, you know, these diamonds are going to be gone. I'm going to rough. These ace small diamonds are going to be gone. So you can sort of see those last 4 cards. It takes a little practice, but that's kind of what you're doing. Is you're going, okay, these 3, these 3. 'Cause-
If you have time to think of all that.
Right, and so, you know, when I showed you the ending, though, it was pretty clear, right? So good declarers can, you know, visualize those endings, and that's how they're able to make decisions like, oh, ugh, that's awful. I don't want to be in this position. So since you know you don't want to do that, would be another idea.
Can you throw east in?
No, because then
You
you'll go
got-
down.
Okay.
You got-
You already lost 2 trips.
Okay, oh, that's right.
Lead another club, and see what he has to, and then he has to pitch either a dog spade or a diamond.
What would you pitch from the north hand?
Yeah, see, that's the
Ooh.
problem.
Let's say you pitch a
let's-
diamond because that's what's safer here, right? If you pitch
Yeah.
a spade here, it happens to work, but you're going to get stuck on the next round.
Yeah,
So east is again just going to keep parity with dummy.
yeah.
This is more or less the same position you were in earlier. It's just you catch your trumps
Still in
first.
my hand.
So have you guys noticed that there's a problem with each of these positions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
What if you lead in that last
You've
club?
still got a loser.
You got, is this a squeeze?
Yeah, it is. Very good.
With a club lead?
So you play it down to the bottom to get to your
So we-
hand.
That hand's got
Play the ace, king of spades, and then the ace of diamonds, and then a small diamond to your king, and see what they sluff.
So the trouble in all of these layouts is that this ace king of spades over here is causing you a lot of problems. You can't pitch a spade from dummy because east can just follow suit. So
right.
you need to run all of your winners that aren't actively like doing something. And here the ace king of spades weren't really doing anything. They were just causing you a problem. Now if you go ahead and cast your clubs, west hand is irrelevant. Now you can safely pitch a spade and there's no problem because the spade threat is in your hand. You were getting kind of blocked with the spades up there earlier. Does that make sense? And so now that you've seen it, the next time it happens, it might be a little bit easier. But
Okay,
No,
then
we
dummy
didn't
has
see-
to figure out which one.
right, and that was the
Yeah.
problem when we didn't play the spades.
Play them before you pull the last two trumps.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Before you start running all of your winners to, you know, do the squeeze, you need to do, we call it the Vienna coup, but really what it is just unblocking things that get in your way. And here it was the notice that I don't think you might be able to do it in diamonds too. Nah, see, it's the
They have
same.
to do the spades.
Yeah, it's better if you do it with the spades because then it works against either opponent. But the takeaway here is that, again, you don't have to know anything about squeezes to execute this. You just have to be good at visualizing what's going to happen. So up to, no, don't want to do that. Up to here, everybody's pretty much on the same page, right? Because we know it's played, everything that we have is in front of us. And we know that you, as a backup plan, you can try for one of those weird positions, but you can actually guarantee this contract if somebody has, you know, both of those queens by executing a squeeze. And when you think about running those winners, you need to see, okay, well, if I play 5 clubs, I have to make 2 pitches from dummy. And the trouble is that East can always follow along, provided you don't unblock their spades. So this is a very tricky hand because you got to see that.
Well, can you play it out?
Yeah, so
So you're playing the ace king of spades first before you draw trump.
you don't have to do it because you have an entry to the south hand with the king of diamonds, but on another kind of hand is, you know, 4-2, 4-2, 4-3, 4 spades to whatever and so on. Is that, you follow me so far?
Yeah.
So assuming that's East shape, you would like East to have the, you know, cards that if discarded would allow you to make a trick. And here it's both of those queens. The queen of spades is the only higher outstanding one other than the jack.
Did East bid at all in this?
No.
No.
And that's the point, is you don't have to have an auction to make this kind of inference.
Yeah.
You're just assuming that the cards
You
lie
have
as
to
such.
keep up with all the cards that have been
Yeah, that's part of it, but it's really just about if they hold this, do I make it? And here you want somebody who has the diamonds and the spades in the same hand so that they have to pitch something. Whenever
Because if they don't, you're not gonna make it.
yeah, it's like holding too much of a good thing. You
Exactly.
can't, right? You know, not without some consequence. And that's the idea here. Is sitting south, I say, okay, well, you know, can't do any one of those suits by themselves, so maybe somebody has both of them and has to pitch something.
Can you play it out?
Yeah. So after cashing a bunch of trumps, you're going to unblock the spades. And you're unblocking these because of what we discussed is that
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
when you visualize the ending, there's a problem, and East can always keep parity. So
Now you leave a small diamond.
now you lead a diamond in your hand and continue drawing trumps. Now, notice you can pitch a spade safely, and East. If East pitches a diamond, your diamond 10 promotes. Right, because now, if you pitch a diamond, the queen falls. If you pitch a spade, then if this thing will ever undo, the jack of spades will be good. Does that make sense?
How do you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
how do you get to the
How
jack?
do you get to the jack of spades?
You're in your
Where
hand.
you get to go to the diamond.
You're in your hand, yeah. So if they pitch a spade, you're in your hand to do it.
Oh, okay.
That's an important consideration when you get the harder variations of this is, do I have the entries I need? That's not something I'm going to talk about here without doing a lot more reading first. But so, again, the general premise is that you don't need to know anything about squeezes to execute them necessarily. It just takes a lot more mental effort. You know, if you're familiar with them, they get easier. But that's it in a nutshell.
That's true.
Drop
know
your
what?
cards.
So let's see
I think
here.
those are the ones he's shown us, ones that aren't making.
I need to get to the sixth
But that's
board.
okay, that's okay. She said the ones he's showing, us, the ones you can't make.
And ones
And
that you can't make, unless you do
And I
something.
said, that's okay, but you can't.
So
Through their stupidity or inability or whatever.
Well, it's because you're squeezed.
Yeah.
They didn't have a choice, I mean, they got to discard something.
Also have.
well, and that's the nice thing. So let's say the layout didn't work, you didn't lose anything. There's just nothing else you could have done,
That's right.
right? Now, there's probably some stickler out there who will watch the stream of this and say, well, this line was slightly better than this one. It's the difference between about maybe 1.5% and 1.75%, right? Because you could have hoped that East had the 8 Doubleton of spades and squashed it, but it's just whenever you have lines that are really close like that, I just like to pick the one that's more fancy, because if you get it and you do it right, you feel better about yourself. If I just take a finesse that was unlikely to work, I mean, we have people who could do that.
Why?
A finesse.
You're definitely gonna.
Bruce's famous last word, don't take finesses, you don't need.
yeah, and that's really what it is. Yeah.
That's what the experts say.
Yeah.
Don't take finesse.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need it.
Well, even, just don't take.
Unless that's the only way.
Unless it's the
But take it if it's the only way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have no other choice.
This is not the same. This is the same hand. Huh. This is embarrassing. I made the same hand twice.
It's because you just loved it.
I guess so. Go ahead then and try the next hand. Should be the fourth one.
Is that it?
We'll see.
We'll see.
Let's see here. Okay, yeah. Good. So, nope.
South is gonna.
And Wesley the diamond. Okay,
No,
so
that's north, you've got me north.
so here you need to know the bidding, and you'll need to know it for reasons that you might not quite see yet. So north-south get the 4 spades, and the way they get there, you don't really need to know the specifics of. Okay, but you still need to see the auction. And West leads a 9 of diamonds. And my question to you is, how do you play this hand as declare? In fact,
Wait a minute,
it's.
how many losers do we have? Okay, we
Two,
have
four,
the spade
five, three
losers.
diamonds.
I
the spade
kind of want to do
losers,
this.
Hearts, we've got ace jack, potentially a heart loser.
I want to show this in the hand viewer link, so you're going to have to bear with me here. Because I really want you to see this without seeing the other two hands. Even though you already have kind of a helpful hint. Can you see this okay?
Yeah,
Okay. Let's see. Okay, good. So, how do you plan to play Here's Declare?
who's declared?
North.
The South is. South's
South
declaring
is
spades.
declared.
So,
That's why there's the fancy bidding. But just,
You don't have it up there right, buddy.
no, South's
Well,
declaring.
But north,
but, yeah,
Has
you
the
wanna.
spade.
North, it's north.
South
I'm
has been,
north.
yeah, South has been spades first.
No, north has been spades.
Look at the auction I have up there.
One club,
South
one
bid
heart.
club.
South bid was spade with 3 of them.
Yeah, the bidding is semi-artificial, but it's only so that South can declare this and get this lead. I had to do a little legwork to get it to look like that. But
Okay.
it suffices to say that the bidding up there is relevant, and now you have to try to go through your plan and make 4 spades.
well, I bet South.
Well, I see 4 losers possible.
And just
Yeah,
same
yeah.
thing, count your tricks, look at your suits in isolation, and
All
tell
right, you have no club losers.
No,
You have a possible 3 heart losers.
no,
Three
No,
diamonds.
3
Or
diamonds.
3 diamonds, I'm sorry, yes.
And a-
And a heart losers.
It's four.
One diamond.
You have 4 losers.
Yeah.
We didn't have four spades.
We're of course,
You have 4
We wouldn't
losers.
open the club.
a diamond has been led.
Oh, yeah, South of the club.
And
The
the diamond
diamond
was
was
led.
led.
Oh, that's nice, that's a nice lead, so we don't have,
Yeah, no, it's not that great a lead.
yeah, it is. Prevents you from having a diamond loser. Oh, I'm sorry,
Hello?
I'm in the wrong suit too.
Yep. Welcome to my world.
Okay, 9 means stop at nothing. Oh, well,
I'd take it with the ace and return the diamond.
Why? You know,
So,
Depends on what's played.
I'll tell you what.
start from the very beginning. How many winners do North South have?
you're losing, you got 4 losers,
Losers, right.
possible losers,
Okay, I agree, because in theory, you could lose 3 diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
and hearts.
So, are you actually going to lose 3 diamonds?
So we can't lose a heart, in other words, what you're saying, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to, but can you lose 3 diamonds?
Impossible, yeah.
If West
Possibly.
gets to lead him twice, yes.
Okay, so what distribution would East-West have that you would lose 3 diamonds?
Doubleton diamond.
Very good. So the key observation here is West can't have the Ace of Diamonds or the Queen of Diamonds.
Right.
Right, because what is he going to, the 9 is like, no.
No,
Right.
nothing.
So the 9 is probably a doubleton
Right,
or a singleton. Can we agree on that?
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to lose the Queen, Ace of Diamonds, and the Diamond Rough.
Yeah, that's 3 tricks right there.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does everybody see that?
yeah,
Do you understand how I arrived at that conclusion?
Yes.
Good. So, since you're going to lose 3 tricks, you have to get the heart finesse right. And so we just need to think about, well, where could that be? Does anybody have any ideas as far as, like right now, trick 1, where it could
He
be?
has a doubleton diamond. Depends on how many hearts he has, spades. We've got 9 spades between us.
How did we arrive
Do
at
you
West?
don't have a choice as far as the heart? Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do. I'm looking at diamonds.
How did we arrive at West leading the 9 of diamonds could be a singleton?
It's
How
a
can't it
doubleton.
be the
It
top?
could be a singleton or a doubleton,
Because
right?
couldn't have the ace
Why couldn't it be
queen.
the top of nothing?
Well.
Because A, top of nothing leads don't exist in suits if you're a decent player. But more importantly, if West is led top of nothing, your contract's cold, right? Because if West is, say, 3 small, you're going to get a diamond trick for force. All you have to do is draw trumps and you're fine. Does that make sense? So even if they did do that, we're disregarding that distribution because then we make it and who cares? That'd be something if you were to declare, you would probably look at it and say, okay, well, that's nice, but you shouldn't stop there. You should say, well, what can go wrong?
Because it usually does.
And the reason top of nothing isn't all that great against suits is because you don't have any idea about the distribution of the hands whenever you're making the lead.
Yeah.
So it's better to do something like fourth best or third and fifth or something. If you have three small, lead low.
So east-west is gonna get the first
Three
two diamond
diamonds,
tricks and a
three.
diamond rough.
Three, yeah.
So yeah, 2 diamonds and a diamond rush. So there's 3 losers.
Okay.
So you're,
And the question is,
Alright.
where is the Queen of Hearts? And
Yeah.
you know, I want you to think about it for about another minute more. I'll give you a hint because
And you figure that the Queen of Hearts has to be finessable because that's the
well, it's
person.
one way or the other,
Yeah.
one way or the
Yeah,
other.
But that's where the most cards are that you
Well,
don't know what they are.
Well,
Right.
you're probably
Right.
gonna play everything out and then lead the spades until they are down to a squeeze, and they, you know, and the queen somehow or another shows up.
okay, so partial credit. I like those 2 answers, right? Because some of this is based on vacant places, and you'd think, okay, well, whoever has the most unknown cards is probably where the Queen of Hearts is.
Because
But
at this point, we don't know.
at
where
this
the
point,
queen is.
you almost know, but I'll get to that in a second. But so you can improve on that line by saying, I want to play a bunch of my winners and see what happens. And in that situation, you'd have a full count, and so I can look at this hand and tell you right now that you're going to end up with each person having 3 hearts. Does that make sense? Because in the ending, your clubs aren't going to really matter. You're going to have no entries with clubs either. Well, you'll have the hearts, I guess.
Mhm.
The trouble is that both opponents can guard clubs, and that's why a squeeze doesn't operate here.
And I have 4 hearts. Did you say we?
If one person has the Queen of Hearts and all the clubs, the other person's still going to have a high club enough to hold the clubs. Which sounds funny, but you're missing the King, Queen, Jack, 10, 9.
Mm-hmm.
And so if West, say, holds the 9, that's enough
Well,
to prevent you from
What if
doing
you
anything.
play out all of the clubs and play out, well, the diamonds are gone, you play, all they have left will be hearts, because well, they could have diamonds, but you don't have any
They
diamonds.
still
so
have
they
3
have to-
left.
Right.
They have to lead to give you a sluff, don't they?
They
Rough or
don't,
sluff?
though. So
They still have 3 left.
I want to show you the first 3 tricks.
But if your hand doesn't, they.
Okay, so East wins, Ace of Diamonds. West pitches no. Queen of Diamonds,
All right.
Ace of Diamonds. West pitching the Queen of Clubs. And a diamond ruffed and a club exit to you. And of course you win because you don't want to go down right now. So
All right.
So you rough out.
Draw trump.
Drop.
I would probably do the same thing, but there's actually something slightly better you can do.
Really?
And you're all sort of circling around this and you're missing it because it's not, you're not really worried about, like, we can all see what the heart finesse is that it's needed, and we can see the end position where we don't know who has it. So
But if you play out all the other suits, all they have left are
Is 3
diamonds
hearts.
and hearts, right? So and you
And
don't have any
clubs.
diamonds.
And clubs,
So
don't
they're
forget
gonna
clubs.
have, you've already sluffed, so if they lead a club, you can slough, you can rough and slough. So they have to give you a rough and slough or lead a heart.
you'll be out of trumps and south if you try this line. Notice you have 3 clubs to rough and you have 3 spades in hand. Also, you probably don't have the entries to do this either in the spades. It's not a bad idea if you had the entries and the extra trump.
Yeah, the eight's
Okay.
not interesting.
But so
I
the,
do.
the point here is that when you guys are stuck and you can see things like, okay, well, the squeeze won't work, the ending is not going to give me more information, you need to think about inferences. What inferences do you have in the auction to play so far? You can actually I can almost tell you who has the Queen of Hearts right now.
Because you put the hands together.
Because of the.
No, because of the inferences. But I mean, that helps if you made
West
every hand
has
in the tournament.
clubs and East has diamonds.
Well, West has
Hearts.
avoided leading hearts. He's led twice.
Okay, I agree, but neither opponent's going to voluntarily lead hearts with the King 10-2 on the board.
And
That's
ace
a tennis.
is- Ace, yeah.
It's not a bad thought though, because sometimes people avoid leading suits for that reason.
Yeah.
So that's the right kind of thinking.
Or he's not leading it because he thinks possibly he might be finessing his
But
partner.
again, that's possible too. But West would do this with 3 small and Queen third, because again, with King 10 small and dummy needing only 1 trick, the only way you're getting another trick is if Declare does something silly.
Well, tell us how you know.
So, what is East?
She's in.
Carol wants the answer.
About it.
What is East played so far? What do we know East has?
Oh, East.
Ace is
Ace and queen of
playing
diamonds.
ace, queen of diamonds.
The Ace Queen 6, because West is shown out in the rough,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So we know the diamond situation. Now let me ask you this: if you hold the Ace Queen 6 of diamonds, aren't you going to open with a preempt?
Yeah.
Right.
Why do you think East passed?
He's got the Queen of Hearts.
Partial credit. Why would you not open a preempt if you had the suit for it?
Because you've
Is that
got
too
four of a
many
major.
Very good. You have 4 of a side major. Now it doesn't.
You knew the answer.
It doesn't stop there though. So you can already approximate East's basic shape, right?
Yes.
6-4, he's got
So
3 other cards.
what you want to do now is find out what honors East has. You know, outside of hearts. And the reason is because East can't have a good enough hand where you can open either, right? Because he passed. So East can't have, say, all the missing high cards.
And
Right.
all the clubs.
Now, I made the hand a little bit easy because of this hint. Alright, so what does this trick tell you?
That he's got the king of clubs.
Very good, right? Because if West is the king, queen of clubs, he'll pitch the king and not the queen.
Probably
So,
the king jack.
right, so East at this point has the ace, queen, 6 of diamonds, and the king, maybe king small of clubs, right? The black sheet distribution is unknown. But if East also has the queen of hearts, that looks like an opening bid. There's so much shape, you're in first seat, just about everybody's going to open this hand. We agree on that?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think the queen of hearts is?
Not in that hand.
Right.
Right.
So, what I suggest you do
They'd open that.
Yeah.
is after winning the club, rough a club, high, and dummy. Just to confirm that East has the king of clubs, you know, and see what it is. It was East's pass that was the crux of all of our
he was
thinking.
the opening bidder. He was a dealer.
Mhm. See that? And it's, you know, everybody associates a pass with weaknesses they don't really care about. But passes are probably one of the most important openings when you're declaring a hand.
Because if he wanted to, then he could come back around and bid his diamonds.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing is that East didn't have East did decide not to do that. You know, well, why didn't he? You have all those lines of thought, and they help you build up a picture of the unseen hands. And a great declarer doesn't have to know very much about any of the tactics we've described, provided that they understand what their opponents would and would not do. Because at trick 3 or 4, I can tell you where the queen of hearts is because I know East would open with one hand and preempt with another hand.
But not in this club.
Do you know
that's-
that's what I was thinking?
And that's
I was
the thing.
thinking,
So-
you can't guarantee it in this club because people, a lot of people don't know what they're doing.
Sometimes you
They
can
won't do
though.
that.
Sometimes you can. Like they're all going to open 13 counts.
Right,
So 12 counts, 90% of them will open.
yeah.
So anytime you have more than that missing, you can automatically place the other opponent with whatever the remainder of the high cards is. Right? So if there's 18 outstanding, East can't have 12, so West must have at least 6. You know, just have to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like duh, but if you do it, it helps you build a picture of the unseen hands. And then you get neat hands like this where you're like, oh, well, I know what's happening. You could even claim if you wanted to, just to see what would happen.
Like you would.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yelled at.
yeah, pretty much.
Ooh.
Pretty much. But does that make sense?
Play this?
Yeah, exactly. How are you going to play this? Well, you told me. You played the 4 cards. I know where the Queen of Hearts is. I mean, but does that make sense? Yeah, and it like I said, it's something that now that you've seen it, you'll think about it when you're doing it. But it often goes unrecognized because it's so obvious. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, of course they passed, but you get these negative inferences about, well, they didn't do this.
Well, that's the thing to me that's good about having the lessons where you talk about them, because you can read a lesson and you don't know what they're thinking to get to the point where they do what they do. I mean,
Right.
there's all kinds of stuff. It's like when you go back and look at a hand, it's like, I really need to see the whole hand played out. All I can see is the opening lead and
Right,
the final
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So give me a second here to set this up, and I want to mention something about
Right.
that because
No, thanks. Yeah.
This is my line.
Here, have another.
Oh, that'll.
let's see.
What are they, dried cherries in
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 3, 4,
there? Or
5,
filled
6.
with pretzels and raisins?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put this
And
in.
peanuts all together.
I'm a peanut, yeah, I've done that one too.
Beer link. Just gonna put this up here.
The napkin.
What's this cooking stuff with you?
Yeah, right
You
there.
got some.
And it was making-
Oh, right.
See how good I was?
Yeah, I just want one, but I don't want it.
Are you gonna eat one now?
No, I'll take one and put it in my pocket.
Well, take another one for your husband. Or at least, or for yourself.
Or for myself.
Another one.
Right, when I leave you.
Okay, so at this point, you have some ideas about how to think. And even knowing all the stuff about inferences and whatever, sometimes you just get stuck. Okay, and there's nothing they can do that's helpful to you. And there's one last thing you can back up on, and that's what this deal is about. In addition to like the next one or two. So, Wes leads the 8 of clubs, and I want you to plan the play.
Okay.
Oh, what's the contract?
You're at 4 hearts.
Four
Hearts.
hearts and
South.
south, okay, and the 8 of clubs is led,
We can't
I
find
don't
it.
Well, you're
want
gonna
for
lose
that.
2 hearts.
He'll never play with me again.
A spade.
Yeah, but we don't know how it happened.
Yeah, we do, it's up there.
2 hearts and a
You
spade,
open 4 hearts.
maybe, and a diamond.
Take the ace.
Now, wait a minute, you're gonna have to do
Two
trump
diamonds.
3, 4.
No, I'm not doing that. Take
You've
the
got,
ace.
you've got 2 trump losers.
I'm gonna do the king of diamonds and overtake with the ace.
Uh-huh.
Play the queen
And
and
the
throw a
jack.
club, the jack and throw a club.
Yes. And then you lose one spade and 2 hearts.
Presuming they don't trump
Okay, so presumably you are going through the process that we outlined, and you counted your winners and your losers, and you looked at each suit. So, do you see what the trouble is here?
Yeah, as soon as I get in with trumps, I leave clubs again.
Yeah, it's like, so, yeah, basically the trouble here is that your spade suit, if the ace is on side, that's fine, but if it's offside, you're always down. Notice that you can pitch your club losers pretty nicely on the diamonds if you do something like, oh, I don't do it in this hand.
We'd have to, on the
With
first
the
trick,
ace.
take the 8 of clubs.
You're gonna have to bear with me here. So, if I can ever get this to stretch out.
Not play on trumps.
That's right.
Well, you can't play trumps, so they're good.
Okay, well that's nice. Let's show you on this. Basically, the south is a stiff diamond, so 2 of those clubs are going on 2 high diamonds.
Yeah.
Right, you can overtake and dummy because they're all the same, and pitch those. Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to do that before you do anything.
Right, so you would, of course, do that. Now, after you do that, though, you still have a problem, right? If the ace of spades is offside, looks like you're always down.
Right.
So is there anything you can do?
Good question.
It'd be nice to
Wait,
put
wait,
West
wait.
on lead.
it. Go ahead and leave, and lose your,
Lose the hearts, see what they lead. Maybe they'll be stupid enough to lead it.
Yeah, so that's kind of what you want, it's sort of what you want to do. It's partial
Oh,
credit.
you're rough up.
Now notice if,
But you can make them do it
Yeah.
later on.
right, now notice though,
Excuse me.
let's say you lead a heart and somebody wins, they can always exit the club, right? You get the rough and then, can't do anything. You're always going to be able to do that. So, while it's not a bad idea,
There's nothing you can slot the.
I think that you see
What if
that
you cross, what if you cross rough?
What do you cross referencing?
right, that's exactly it.
Oh, no, you can't, you king of diamonds, you're still on, okay.
But you see, I think, and I hope everybody else sees, that the spade suit, it either works or it doesn't, right?
Yeah,
So there's only one suit left to play on,
yeah.
Who's big?
right?
Hearts. Mhm.
Right, hearts. You want to do something, and again, when you're stuck, how can the opponents help you? Well, if they played both of their heart honors at once, then
Yeah.
that'd be
That
nice,
might
right?
Right.
That'd be nice. You don't think about this because, well, they got to be really stupid to do that. Sometimes they have to be, and you just have to, gamble on that.
sometimes you need gifts.
You have
Yeah,
to know your opponent.
right. So, what's the best way to induce them to crash their honors here is really the question, right? Because that's what we're trying for. We have to be a little bit deceivious.
Oh, I see. Play low.
What do you mean, say that again, please?
How do you get East-West to play the Ace and King of Hearts in the same trick?
You can
Lead up to the queen?
No,
wait a
you
minute.
don't play the queen. You don't need to play the queen because you got the 7, 6, and 5, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Jack, queen, you've got all of them. So you can just play too low. And,
So, it doesn't matter in theory which one you play as far as playing the suit legitimately, right?
Right.
no.
So, the key in deceptive plays is to realize that it does matter which card you pick because you need to put yourself in the shoes of the defender.
Okay, so
So
you have to play one of those
queen and
honors.
they cover.
So, I want to show you East's hand.
You want East to lead or have the ace of hearts and
What would you do as East here
oh,
with King Small?
Which way is it led? It's led from.
North leads the
north.
Queen of Hearts. The suit hasn't been
It's a low
touched.
heart.
Oh, he led the queen.
No.
But aren't you supposed to
Then
cover?
if he takes the
You cover.
king,
Cover.
I don't know, second hand low.
then he has to
Cover,
play the
cover an
jack.
honor.
So this is the thing, and I'm not showing you a complete auction because it would it impacts the East decision here. But let's say South has 5 hearts. The honest way to make a trick in the trump suit is to cover when the partner has Jack Small, right? Declare has this as a free shot for him because like sometimes people
Somebody's
go.
got the ace
There's
and
no
king.
the only other honest way for Declare to make all the trump tricks with ace empty fifth opposite the queen is the or rather ace 10 9 fifth opposite the queen fourth is the cash ace of hearts and drop the stiff king. Or alternatively squash the jack. So East has a legitimate problem here because if West has Jack Small, he's making him a trump trick for his side. Should Declare be trying to do some sort of deceptive ploy with Queen Fourth opposite Ace 10 Fifth. However, you can see that if he does this on the actual hand, partner plays the ace, and he looks like an idiot.
Yeah.
And that's just the thing. It's a legitimate problem for East because, does West have Jack Small? Does West have the stiff ace? You can't tell.
That's right.
If you had an auction where South had shown 6 hearts, now you would play low because West only has 1 heart and there's nothing you can do to gain otherwise. But if South has 5 hearts, you're stuck because West could have Ace Small, West could have Jack Small, and
I know
if
how
South
many
does have
times-
6 hearts, you don't know.
I don't know how many times though I've gone low in that situation and eaten my king.
Yeah, I believe it, and it's one of those things where the Declare will do this, and you're stuck because you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So, does that make sense though?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like you have this flow chart of things you can do as Declare, and so my marker's in the other room, but basically, you look for honest ways.
Well, why would you go up with why is the queen play with the ace?
The queen's led from north,
Oh, led from the north, okay.
right? And if you look at the full.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
You try to make the hand honestly. You look for ways that
I
you
see.
can.
I see.
If you can't do that, you look for ways that you can have the opponents help you. And sometimes those are things like squeezes where it's just an honest, it's just good card play. At the very end, though, whenever you have absolutely nothing going for you, you have to try this kind of deceptive play. And I can't tell you how many 3-no trump contracts I've been in, and it's just, you got to hope for a gift, and they give it to you. And this is kind of what this is. So,
That's because you have 6 in your hand.
yeah.
Yeah. We hit double to the clutch on the 3-no trump.
You did that against us.
I know.
We can move him to another table.
Right away.
So I think here, that was this one. So it should be your second to last board is this hand.
Okay, second to
Yeah,
last.
mentally-
Do we
Second to
really-
last
Do
board.
we really have to pick the boards up?
I want you to actually play this one.
Oh, second to last?
Yeah, South plays 3-no trump.
Here.
You know, you wonder how you got
Yeah, I
that.
always
We
went
don't need
3-no
these
trump.
cards anymore.
South plays 3-no
Wants
trump
us
and
to play it.
South plays 3-no trump and West leads a heart. I want you to play this because I want to show you the solution afterwards and it'll make some
Have
sense.
you got a can? Are you
Well, I
gonna
didn't
play-
see it at the time you played it, how to make it.
I thought he said this
I
one.
couldn't see it going back and look.
Yeah, it should be the second to last
Wait,
hand.
Everybody else makes it work.
wait. Second to last hand, that's what
Second to
I
last
have.
hand.
Oh,
Okay,
Went-
North
Went 3-0,
has,
thinking back to that score.
and I'm so,
That's my day then.
that's it, that's right. Now, we're in what, 3-0?
Yeah, South plays 3-0 trump, West leads a 4 hearts.
No,
And don't
we said
even-
we're gonna play this.
I'm
one.
hiding the hand because I want you to
Oh,
actually
want us
play
to
it.
actually
we
play
have to
this.
play it.
Okay.
Is Phyllis playing
No, South
I'm
is.
it?
playing
South
it.
is playing it.
Miss Ruth.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I lay my hand down.
Three,
We're
no
gonna
Trump.
lay down.
And
So,
did it just go on no Trump, 3 no Trump, or?
I don't
Somebody
know.
else.
The auction won't really matter. Just as long as you know
Okay.
that the heart lead is there, that's all you'll need to know.
All right, you lead a heart, you,
I lead a heart.
yeah.
You don't want to lead a heart.
Well,
Oh, yeah, no Trump, sure.
oh, this is no Trump?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was close.
No.
And there are times when I will still lead
Yeah,
away
I'm
from
sorry,
it.
I'm
too.
sorry,
Okay, all right, Miss Ruth, show us your brilliance.
Yeah, this is really interesting.
Since her back is to the board, can you put the board, she's up there?
Okay, lay the 3.
Excuse me.
Can I look over her shoulder?
That's what I was gonna do. She's got two
Come on over here.
shoulders. It's gonna make her nervous. You could put it up on the board,
No, I
because
probably did all wrong,
probably not.
I thought you were always working over
but for sure. For this hand. I'm supposed to
see
do
what you
something.
got there.
I know I'm supposed to do something clever here. All right, play this, we'll play the 2. 3. And the 9.
Okay, I'll get it. Go ahead.
You're on for it.
No,
No,
she did
it's not.
The 9?
No, she took it with King of Diamonds.
Okay.
So 3.
Dang, did you have anything on me?
Bye. Queen. Ace.
None.
Oh, wait a minute, yeah, no, spades, no. Queen of diamonds. Ten. Jack.
Okay.
Ace and clubs.
So you're gonna give up,
I'm
you're
gonna give up.
gonna, you're
South.
gonna.
She made five.
Give up your clubs.
How
No, she
does-
made
how does South get North to lead a club when they get in
So,
Oops.
defenders, did you guys see where you guys messed up?
Well, let's just do it card by card.
You had the
How about
opening
that?
lead, you led a heart, and then you got in with the King of Diamonds,
Okay, I led a heart.
and then you got in with the King of Diamonds.
again? Okay.
And
What
so
heart did,
What did you put down?
what did
on-
South play on your heart?
I think it's 7.
Okay,
You
so
should
where are the
play
high
low.
hearts? In your hand?
Well, one is.
Okay.
But the
So
7
she doesn't
was
have any
my
high
heart.
ones and there's none on the table.
What
that
is
have
your
to be
highest
over
heart?
Jack.
You should have
Well, I
played the
didn't lay a
Jack.
heart back.
You still need
No.
to play the
What
Jack.
did-
So,
Yeah.
to save you guys some
here. Oh,
trouble,
where's the lead?
look at the screen.
She took it. She had, how many hearts did
But you got in again.
Here, guys, look at the board here. I want to explain the
Okay.
defense, and I want to
Yeah.
explain what the cleric can do to stop this.
How does
Okay.
she, how does she know to lead something else? Was the
That's
question.
right.
So listen. So this isn't The defense here isn't complicated, it just takes about 2 seconds of negative inferences. So West leads the heart, East correctly plays the 7 to surround the 9. And this implies that you have all those other 3. The South wins the Queen. So sitting West, if you see this, partner can't have the Ace or Queen of Hearts because they would have played it.
Right.
Right? So you immediately place this with the Declare. So is the heart suit going to be a source of tricks for you? Absolutely not. Okay.
She's already realized that.
Now, how did Declare play from here? Because I wasn't particularly paying attention.
She cleared out the diamonds,
She
she
let
ran
us-
the good ones.
She,
Played the ace.
Diamonds.
she lost the king of diamonds and to whoever,
At what trick?
Clear.
On the
3 or 4.
3 or
Played the
4?
ace of diamonds first.
Okay.
The ace
It's
and
interesting.
then led up to the queen.
Okay, so East here probably gives count the first one, you know, and plays low. So
Okay. Now,
again here, do you looking at this, looking at dummy?
Club. I would have let it
If your partner has those spades, you're not going to have time to set them up even if they're that good.
Yeah,
So you have to switch the club.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Which one would you lead, the 2 or the queen?
I would. That's a good question.
I have ace king.
It shouldn't really matter here, but leading low is probably slightly better because what I want to do is not block the suit. So I would probably switch to low club.
So I go down.
Because you
one.
have 4 of
So I
them.
go down one.
You go down
Right.
one, so with the club.
Notice this is a free shot for you because nothing else is going to work. If you lead a heart, that's fine. Now, if you're playing in like match points and you need to think about like over tricks, this hand's a little harder, but that's not the point of today. But does that make sense? Does that make sense for you too? Because I mean, this is
But
too much.
I never got in.
If you want to make it easy for your partner, East,
I understand.
if you want to make this easy for your partner, the first card shows count, right? You think the second card should show count?
See, a lot of people don't show count.
you only show attitude.
They just show attitude. We show count, and I'm getting Peggy to play. Show count.
I'm getting there, it's just, it's another box that I'm trying to fill up.
Right.
You
So
know?
the rule, attitude, count, suit preference, in that order. So East here, nobody really cares about the attitude of diamonds. So no, the first card's count. After you show count though, you can make life really easy for your partner by making a suit preference signal because you have the cards too.
So on your lead, on your slough,
Well, I'm still
you can
following suit.
deny
Now,
something.
it'll be tricky for you to read here because the 3's missing, but at least there's a little bit of a part effort. She didn't play the 7, right? So you may or not figure it out, but you're still going to use the same reasoning I suggested, But the point is that the defense can take 5 tricks quickly, right? Provided they can switch
That's what I
clubs.
wanted to Would you explain also, to show what you want your partner to return to you when you know they're gonna take the trick, how to lead little or low and what that, or big and what that means?
Let me touch on that at the end because that really deserves.
No, he was talking about.
That's almost
No,
a,
he was
that's
talking
almost a
about
class by
slots.
itself. But the key idea is just again.
Listen, Peggy.
The key idea when you're trying to figure out what to switch is knowing what you need partner to hold. And like I mentioned earlier how I didn't want to block this suit. If partner has like ace, king, small, and I play the queen first, they may not overtake, and then my suit's blocked.
Yeah.
So, might do another class on that, but for now, just suffice to say that when you're wondering what to switch, ask yourself what you're switching to. And that usually it clarifies the situation. If you don't know, make what you think the best lead is.
Because a lot of times, well, always, I know Ruth and I do it. If I want the lowest card in dummy, I'll return the little
Yeah,
card.
that's good practice.
In a suit contract.
Yes, yes.
But so,
Oh, actually, it could be in the notes. Not
so since we understand the defense now, I want you to look at the Claire's position here.
That would be a really good class to have.
Count class.
Well, count and suit
and suit
preference
preference.
and all of that, all
Yeah.
the little, they're not so little though.
No, they're not. They're very helpful on hands like this. Just a note to myself. So, Declarer, do you think Declarer should see this line of defense? But you think you should see that that's going to happen?
Well, yeah, I was.
I absolutely agree because you got to pick a diamond finesse. They're going to figure it out and switch a club, and if they do, you're toast.
Yeah.
So can you stop them from
Oh,
switching
how
a
do you
club?
make it?
Well, that's probably what this hand is all about. And I did not think of any other alternative other than leading a club myself.
That's pretty insightful because sometimes that works.
For the night. No,
But there's a better play.
what I could do, well, no, I can't have them slough anything because I can't set up the diamonds yet.
Maybe
And
single
so
spades
I could play on the spades and see.
It's still the same problem though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The problem is that you need to establish diamonds without getting a club switch.
Right.
You can only establish diamonds one way, right?
Right.
So how do you prevent them from getting a club switch? You can't do it with
I don't
spades. You can't do it with diamonds. So what suits left? You can't do it with clubs
Hearts.
because I said so. Right. So your error was at the trick one. You should have done this. No, you shouldn't have done this.
Played my 9 from the board.
No, even better than that.
No.
You should win with the ace of hearts.
Oh, really?
Because think about what kind of situation this puts West in. West doesn't know if her partner has a queen of hearts or you do. I would play that my partner has it because, she's making a surrounding play. And if you had the queen, you would probably win with the queen, not the ace, right? Because now you're just getting up a trick unnecessarily the king.
Mm-hmm,
It seems silly.
mm-hmm.
So, there we go.
Here we come.
And
Yay.
go.
Some
Two times.
places losing power.
Yeah.
That's
No,
fine.
it's not-
But so by winning with the ace in this hand, though, you're creating this how would you say, like, picture of the hands for a defender and an attempt to confuse them. Is it no risk to you because what you want is another heart lead back to you, not a club,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm,
So
right.
let's say that you win the ace of hearts and lead a spade, finesse diamonds. West wins.
Yeah, then what if I get a heart through my hand?
That's okay. Let's say West leads a small heart, thinking that they're going to run the suit. Well, what happens is that your queen wins and you take all of the trick.
Yeah, you play your queen.
If West cashes the king of hearts, it's still not clear where the queen of hearts is unless he makes some signal that's obvious. But it's still a lot more unclear than it was if you won the queen of hearts. You're giving yourself an extra chance.
Well, what if the king is in the east, the king of diamonds is in the east hand?
Then
It's hard for me to
And it's
find
finesse
out.
around.
No,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Well, no, it doesn't.
Four,
If the king is in the
eight.
east hand, it doesn't make sense.
Well,
Yeah.
that's okay.
And you still haven't done anything with the diamonds yet.
No.
well, if it was on side when you finesse diamonds, it would have been on side. You wouldn't have to worry about this. That's why you're supposed to finesse diamonds, not play ace and out of diamond. Does that make sense? Finessing the diamond suit is the best play to make as many tricks in diamonds as possible here.
Not ace and then
Yeah.
up to the queen.
You can't lose the diamond to any opponent because of the club suit.
So I should finesse the diamond?
Play the queen of diamonds, yeah, for dummy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking they would lead a heart again.
Yeah. And that's what you want though, and so
Don't you think though that this person has the king and they're leading from the king of hearts?
right, and that's the point though, is that they'll
Against the
underlead it again. Because if they have the king, then I mean, again, I
They're
don't
not
lose
gonna try a new
anything.
suit at that
All I
point.
want to do is make sure they don't switch a club, and that's my best chance to.
So then it becomes absolutely necessary to finesse the diamond. That's what it amounts to.
And fake them out about the
Right,
And then it doesn't
heart
matter.
position so they won't lead the clubs.
right. That's the key on this hand. You can't afford another switch. If you get a switch, you go down.
Because then
She'll
she'll,
land against the butlers, they're gonna lead the clubs anyway.
Right.
maybe not necessarily.
Now, the other ploy that some people would suggest, and it's not a
So well.
It would normally not be a terrible idea, but on this hand, they will always figure it out. Is, as you suggested earlier, let's say you won with the queen and let a club immediately. The trouble with this is, like, let's say West wins.
That's not good. Yeah.
Let's say West wins and East is going to be well alert and alive to the situation and wonder what's going on. he can overtake, switch a heart, and you're just down again. So, and again, this hand is just about seeing the hand as a whole. That's like our third step. And noticing that you need to establish your diamond suit without getting a club return. Since you can't win the race to do it, you have to help them let you win the race. And that's by making a deceptive play in the heart suit. So does that make sense? I had you guys play it because that's not something that you would think of automatically, because we're so used to playing the card quickly, you know, we don't consider it.
Really? Really?
You know, if we have time to think of all this
Hurry up,
through.
play.
Yeah.
So-
You know when you end up with 6 minutes left when you play the 2 meetings.
Oh, I want to have to put this in the hand we were
Two
like.
credits anymore.
So we'll do this hand, and we might have time for one more.
When diamonds lay down.
Open in the window.
Sit there and look at the diamonds.
Oh, well, I always
So you do that?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I count my three and my losers. Count my winners
And I've got, I did not automatically play.
This thing is being so slow.
Once I've got my plan.
You know, it's like,
You're through.
Yeah, I
Bing, bing,
know.
bing, bingo.
I got you that one, yeah.
You're off to the races.
Yeah, once I got my
You,
plan.
you have your plan and then you have to go to plan B, what do you do?
I know.
I'm waiting for this thing to sync up because- Go ahead and pull out the last hand,
Okay.
because this thing is being silly.
Switching it again?
No, wait, I did. Oh, I already.
You got it. Just,
All right.
it doesn't make any difference. He's showing it to you. And you know what?
Ooh, this is
Okay, there we go.
interesting hand.
We'll just do this one.
That must mean ours aren't filled.
Well,
Well,
I've just had the same thing I've had that I get on a real game.
The 11-point hand you don't want to do.
So does the hand up here
5 or 6 points.
correspond with your, or, well,
No, not really.
Boy, the wind is acting up, isn't it?
who's sitting, you're sitting south?
I'm sitting,
You're north.
I'm north.
So south is going to play in 4 spades, and west is going to lead.
South is gonna play 4 spades,
And it's going to lead the king of hearts.
4 spades?
That's what he tells you.
And what did you say, Jack?
King of hearts is left.
Yep, that's exactly what I would.
I'm north, why would I double?
Oh, okay. Oh,
Sound.
Hello, hello,
Put your hand
no,
You're the diamond.
down. You got to. You don't have a choice.
yeah, she opened 2 spades. You got points.
oh yeah, I got,
This is the hardest hand in the whole set.
oh, there we go.
You saved the hardest one for the last one.
Yeah, of course.
Now we're in what, 4 spades?
Right.
Yeah.
So what, 2 spades, 4 spades?
Yeah.
We've got
One
6
heart.
spades over there, okay.
Really?
Heart. Well, there's a heart, no diamonds.
Isn't this interesting?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I'm gonna
Why
play.
do you lose more than 2 spades and 1 heart?
Well, let her think about it, because she's trying to play it
And how many is she in?
4.
forward.
Yeah.
And you can make this. This isn't one of those, you trying to minimize your under tricks. You can make this.
I can make it.
Think positive, Ruth.
Okay, please.
The ace.
And, play, a small spade. Ooh.
Got a big one with that.
Ooh, a big fish.
All right, what a woman.
Play.
I'm just looking north south hand.
Oh, I did have my mark. Oh.
Thinking. Not gonna make this.
I agree. So, going back it up. Going back up to the first trick.
After the first trick.
First trick.
Okay.
So,
She doesn't trump and
looking at the north-south hands on the board, talk to me about what you guys see. We'll go through our same process.
From what?
Winners and losers, suits in isolation, suits as a whole.
Okay, you got no diamond losers, you've got 2 heart losers, and umpteen spade losers. Was your spade a singleton field?
Yes.
Doubleton.
What's
had
the
two.
Doubleton? Okay.
And I had to take it off, so I wasn't gonna sit around and lose it.
So this is a hard hand to do the first step with because the spades, it looks like we have a multitude of losers depending on how they break. Let's call it 2, okay? Because like the king and queen are missing. You know, if you miss both of those, you're going to lose a heart, and you have all the top clubs, so it looks like you're going to lose no clubs, right? But do you notice that there's a problem with this club suit?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is that?
Can't get to your hand,
Right.
can't get to your hand.
Anytime you see a bunch of top honors in one hand, you should be immediately thinking about blockage problems. We'll come back to why that's important in a moment. So, you got a heart lead, so you're going to lose that heart. There's no way to dispose of it. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
You know, you can't establish the diamonds. You know, you can't unblock the clubs without risking a rough, as we saw. And that won't help you with your heart either. So you need to play on trumps first, right? That seems like the natural thing to do. There's no other way you're setting up another suit anytime soon.
That's what she did.
So, let's see. You win the heart, and now you lead a spade. Now, which spade do you play from the south hand?
Oh, I played the 7.
And why is that the correct play?
Because I've got 2 losers already. And, well, there's 6 spades out, so they would have to be hopefully 3-3, but they could be 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going.
Oh, and.
You're thinking exactly the right way, but I just want you to
Yeah.
go
Yeah,
through it.
They could be.
If they're 4-2, what happens?
Well, then I have a trouble with, I don't have a 9 of spades, so if I play a jack, an honor, and lose to the king, I mean, that's basically
only
what I
have
was
one.
thinking, then I only have, there's no way.
Did everybody hear what she just said?
Yeah.
She explained it better than I would have. So if you play the jack,
You get the money.
well, yeah, if you play the jack, you lose a lot of money.
Yeah,
I'm trying to, there we go. If you play the jack, the spade suit looks like this,
yeah.
right? And after they lead a heart, or not a heart, there we go. After they lead a heart and you rough, you have to lead the spade suit from your hand in this position. That's not good for you because, as you point out, you're missing the 9 and the other high honor. So, yeah. If they're 3-3, as you pointed out, nobody cares. So, the reason that playing low from your hand is correct, you're basically making a finesse against the 9.
Yep.
Because you can afford to lose 2 spades in this hand, and so now you can go ahead and flush out trumps from your hand, there's no problem. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's like hard part number 1 about this hand. So good job finding the trump play the first time. I was a little excited you'd be able to find it all the way, but you fell into the trap that I did too when I did this hand. So, because this is another hand from Bridge-Master, and I did this about 10 times before figuring out the right solution. I was like,
You're gonna
oh.
fluff the clubs on dummy?
Yeah. So, remember that blockage problem I mentioned earlier?
Right.
There's only one way to solve it.
To unblock the club suit.
It feels uncomfortable because they're winners, but just remember, when blocked winners they're disgusting. You know, get rid of them.
They're really not winners, you've got all those in your hand.
Yeah, it's a bunch of winners leading to a bunch of losers. You know, why would you keep them? You
Why
know,
didn't I think of that?
it's not something that's easy to find. I'm showing you this hand because I didn't see it. And so then you end up with
I had
this.
trouble throwing away the
Yeah.
skin cleaner.
Yeah, I've seen hands like that.
Yeah, me too, but me too.
It's so seldom that it comes up against one of them.
Well,
Say
we'll,
it
we'll
again.
find out the next time
You're
we're playing
cutting
out.
Tuesday.
Oh, yes.
Remember that.
Yeah, I could not have made a hand that good myself, so I had to borrow it. But it was just like,
Is that-
you know, but it you know, and the thing of it is that
None of us could figure out how to play.
it all boils down to the same concepts. You can go through your checklist and then just say, well, you get better over time at seeing positions. That's what that is. If you see that the clubs are
Already?
blocked, you know that's a problem. If you see that the spades can split so many ways for you to make whatever number of losers, you can make the right plays. This isn't unreachable stuff. It feels hard because you haven't done it a lot yet.
Well, and it's not the normal way you would play
And
a
it hasn't
hand.
come up.
No.
Well, it is the
Years.
normal way you would play if you just think it out.
Right.
Because her hand, she has them solid in her hand. So
Yeah,
what good
after
are
she-
they?
Right.
The
After she gets
reason
rid of it.
that a lot of people when they play at a club and they look at the hands and they make mistakes is because they're rushed.
Yeah.
It's about 7 minutes a board. 2 or 3 of those minutes are spent bidding on average. So you get 4 minutes to formulate. You get 1 minute to formulate a plan, and then you get the other 3 to make them. They just wait because defenders don't think on defense, and so they're just like, and they take forever. You know.
We're trying to do that.
Hey, you played at our club, right?
But so does these actually make sense?
Yes.
It's really
Yes.
being a good declarer is about having a thought process.
Good lesson. But I
So-
wish you would do one on that.
I will plan on doing something
On what?
on counting.
Count. Suit preference.
Suit preference.
Like what I'm thinking because
Carolyn, I need that.
I'm pretty sure that all my other material is used up. Let me just make sure. Yeah. Yeah, that would work. So, none of this. So, basically, I'm only ever here for one more lesson in person. After that, it's all virtual until I come back in the fall. So, what I can do is I could do that on May 4th. So, this is a topic like that.
May 4th.
Is that the first Saturday?
Is that
I
right?
believe
When is
so.
Mother's Day?
Mother's Day's the
I
next
won't
week.
be here that day.
Is that a Saturday? I've got, I'm
Yes.
overbooked that day
Could you
already.
do Sunday
Sunday.
instead of Saturday?
Which
I have a
Sunday
plant
is
sale
the
in
5th?
the morning for that day. I'm working the plant sale in the morning.
The Sunday would be doable too.
I go to a cooking lesson.
Yes.
Next time. We're not playing for a while.
They are delicious. Didn't you see me sitting there snacking at them?
Mm-hmm, I thought so, but I just.
Yeah, I
Okay, where's my?
Play with
We're gonna do those.
John,
So that might be something I do Sunday. That I'll run it by Judy, but I'm sure I'll get the okay as long as you're not doing anything here.
Anybody
I can't-
want to go to yoga with me?
Yes. but-
Where you go?
I probably need to. I can't stretch at all.
At St. Mary's.
All right.
Really?
Thank you.
Who's
Thank you,
teaching
guys.
that class?
Her name is Heather. It's a good class.
Where, at the Y?
And-
No,
the
in St.
Wellness
Mary's.
I didn't
Center.
rejoin.
You didn't?
she
A lot of
didn't.
people did not. And I started taking the yoga classes because I did read